is in pretty good shape. One person, there's a red here. You need to have 18 hours by this week, and I think most people are in pretty good shape. Just be really careful. If you are this person, or in fact anybody else, we're close to the end of the semester. Don't lose your momentum. This person has had some absences. These reading strategies people, your only grade is your hours. So if this person doesn't get 24 hours in by the end of the semester, they won't pass. So that's the only one I see that's even remotely a problem. Just make sure you have a range to make up those hours. Yes?
What chance does that be?
You'd have to come up and look. Okay? So yeah, that's my only concern. But largely, you guys are in better shape than most classes are at this point.
So I have a question.
Yes.
So if we're above the number of points we're supposed to have, we're okay?
It can't be above the number of points you're supposed to have.
No, well, let's say 490 or something like that?
Well,
For the Reading Cafe?
I know, I feel like I'm going to
the number of points you're supposed to have is,
He says you must earn a minimum of 490
well, the
points.
minimum is not what I'm concerned about. I'm concerned about you
It's
getting
700.
an A, all right?
Yeah, that's,
The number of points you're supposed to have is the total of what's along here, okay?
because I'm getting close to like 580 or something
Yeah,
like that.
so it looks
I'm
like
almost at 600, I'm trying to.
the total is somewhere in the 500s, okay?
Yeah, because I mean,
Is-
it's
yeah.
550 that I did the other ones, that's 580 and 30
Yeah.
points. I'm at 580 right now.
Because just so you know, what I do with that Reading Cafe grade is, so whatever the total number is along here, I think it's 700. I think the total at the end is 700. I take this number and I convert it to my 4.0 scale. So people end up, they think they're doing okay here, but people end up just barely over passing on this, on my scale. So
I got a couple
like
of
I-
low
like I keep
points on
saying,
here.
yeah,
I got
like I
low
keep
points.
saying to people, don't look at the minimum, look at the maximum. You guys need to be shooting higher than minimum. Don't even pay attention to the minimum. The point in college is to do the best you can, not the minimum. Okay? So don't even look at that. All right, I wish they would take that off of there. Because too many people look at that and say, oh, this is how many I'm supposed to have. That's not. You're supposed to have the higher number.
Yeah, well,
That's
my point is, I'm already
The
above that.
minimum is barely scraping by. That's not good enough. Okay? Okay. If you are, which I hope you are doing, looking at your purple sheet before and after you come to class every day, you should have a question about the purple sheet. Did anybody look at their purple sheet? Yes, good. There's an error. All right. Did everyone hear what Brian said? No. There's a mistake on your purple sheet, and you should have called me on it. Okay? The homework has just somehow disappeared, but you're not going to get away without it. As you can see, it goes strangely from homework 14 to homework 16, so something is missing, okay?
Homework 15.
So it's our same old thing. We are in the middle of a lesson here. So it's major supporting details homework. I'm going to hand it out. Just a kind of a last reminder here. If anyone is thinking of dropping a class to avoid a failing grade, you have until midnight tonight to get into WebReg. Okay? So again, I'm not telling anybody. We went over that the other day. People know, people who are in trouble in this class know who you are. it's, the people who I did have to drop have been dropped. Mostly that was the reading center also. But other people other people are on, it's like it's possible that they could pass at this point. The question is, do they want to do the double work that they need to do now and then? Okay. So people who are in that situation, if you have any questions, come and talk to me, but the deadline is today. Okay. So for this homework, for this fantasy homework that we have, we're going to keep looking at this list that we have up here. Now, there's something else I need to point out to you. When I took the roll today, I came to the end of a page on the roll. So I'm now flipping over to the last page of the roll book. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more class meetings. We have the final exam on the last day of instruction, and then we do have a required final meeting. We'll talk about that when we get closer to it. However, the point is, we're pretty close to the final. And something that you should be putting together in your head is, if a teacher has had something up here on the board over and over again in the second part of the semester, what are the chances of that appearing on your final exam? Very good, okay? So you need to be aware of that and of the fact that you may be asked a question on the final that says, explain how to pick a paragraph apart to show what purpose each sentence serves. Okay? So if you don't have that written down now, or if you don't understand it, you better get it cleared up within the next couple of weeks. Okay?
You talking about what's on the board right there, or?
Well, this is, remember what I keep saying, this is a shorthand version of it. It's shorthand in a couple of ways. I've got MI instead of main idea. But the other thing is, you need to show that you understand what all this means, okay? So I just say discover topic. How do you do that? Can you explain to me how to do that? Phrase the topic. Can you explain to me how to phrase the topic? Okay? Put the main idea in your own words. How do I do that?
Determine the topic.
Okay. Find the topic sentence. How do I do that? How do these steps go together? Does that make sense? Okay.
Determine it, phrase it, sort of the main idea.
Okay, yeah. You're going to need to explain that to me, most likely, at some point on the final. So again, just another kind of a study skills thing. If something has been up here on the board again and again in a class, you're pretty good guess that you're going to have to know what it is. Okay? Okay, this is, and like I said the other day, some teachers call this mapping, some teachers call it outlining. In the next two and a half weeks, I'm actually going to have you do some literal mapping and outlining of these paragraphs. And what I'm leading up to, as you can guess, is the homework you have for tonight, which is a form of outlining. Okay, so again, what I'm trying to do is, you guys are all doing some kind of list as part of your annotation, but we're trying to get those more formalized. We're trying to get them into a more formal picture of what the paragraph is. So on this one, and this is another one of these where I tried to get a highlight on here, but it ended up pretty much crossing out. It's easier to read on your paper. It's just that this thing doesn't really show well what's up here. So same thing here. read the paragraphs, highlighting and annotating as you read. Now, what's different here, as you can see the whole exercise here, is that I should say that this is kind of a turning point in the way I'm doing homework. I'm no longer, you notice I'm no longer asking you down here to do this step by step, which is another good reason why you need to remember what to do, because you still have to do this. But I'm not asking you to phrase the topic in a question and then write out the main idea yourself and then find the topic sentence. But you still have to do all that. For one thing, you have to underline the topic sentence. So you have to go through those steps to find it, okay? Circle the words in the sentence that indicates a list. What this says is, there are 2 chief causes of wildlife destruction, okay? And from being in this class all semester, you can pretty much tell me that that's most likely the topic sentence, okay? Marcia, there are 2 chief causes of wildlife destruction. Okay, what question does that bring up? What are the chief causes, first and second? So as we can see, this is one of our fairly standard paragraphs, right, Lisa?
Yeah.
This is a pretty easy paragraph, okay? But as you know, some of them are not going to be so easy, right? Okay, so what I am asking you to do is do all this stuff, but not in my little ABC answer thing. You're doing a more real-life annotation, okay? Your annotation should include an indication that you understand what the topic is. Now, if you think about it, that is, or can be, the title of your list. Wildlife being killed. Why? This could serve in a sense as a topic. The reasons wildlife is being killed. Okay? So then, so you're doing all this stuff. You're doing up to number 5, okay, in your real life annotation, which is a more realized situation than listing it on those lines under the paragraphs. Does everyone see what I'm getting at? This is a kind of a shift because I'm still asking you to do it, but you're putting it into annotation mode.
What you're saying, where it says wildlife being,
Wildlife being killed.
why, that could be a sentence, you can make that, not a sentence,
Yeah.
but the title of
It
the
could be,
paragraph.
it could be wildlife being killed. What I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to paraphrase wildlife destruction. What's another way to say wildlife destruction? That's another thing we really need to emphasize, is getting this into your own words to prove that you understand it, okay? What do they mean by wildlife destruction? Wildlife being killed, that's my paraphrasing. Okay, so my list, and again, this isn't, I'm not introducing any new concept here, it's what you've been doing right along. Your list is number 1 and number 2, first and second, right? What I'm asking people to do here, the difference is, basically what you are doing is making a mini outline of this. I'm asking you to formalize the outline, okay? So if you think about an outline, everybody recognize this kind of thing?
Yes.
Oops, 2 comes next. Basically, this is what you're doing. Has anyone ever had to write one like this? An outline that looks like this? Yeah, a lot of you have done it at different stages. If you haven't, you will, okay? But what we're doing is we're only dealing with this level. These are the major details. As you can probably guess, these are the minor details. So you guys are filling out this outline, if it helps you, if that helps you to understand what you're doing. You're filling out this outline for each one of these paragraphs, okay? I have helped you by, so this is your sample. This, of course, is gonna pretty much match what you do up here. See if you can find a way to say it that is not copying. Show me that you understand what these points are. What's going to help you here is that I have given you the number of points you have to have. So that will help at first. Obviously, in real life, nobody's going to tell you, look for 3 points in this paragraph, but mostly you guys have figured out how to do that with your addition transitions. The introductions to a list, that there are several reasons, and there are 2 chief causes. You guys know how to do that, okay? These get longer. Some of them have 5 points. I think one of them has 8. One of them has 6. No, they don't put 8 yet. One of them has 6. I think that's the longest one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. These are, the other thing is this is in slightly different format because I pulled exercises from different parts of the book, parts of the chapter, and Lorraine Fleming had it differently. Sometimes she had this, sometimes she just had this, and sometimes she didn't have anything. So I typed in my numbers, okay? But it's all the same thing. Okay, on this one, there are 2 parts, but it's pretty much the same. This one doesn't actually ask you to circle these, but the second part does. So just do that throughout. I probably should have just changed it so that it was the same. That's the only difference
I've
here.
got a question. On our final, are we gonna have that on our final?
You're going to have everything that was in this class.
So there's multiple choice and there's gonna be, so look it up like, how we do.
Yeah, you're going to
Okay.
have to map or outline a paragraph
Okay.
on the final. In other words, on the final, besides explaining how to do this, you are going to have to take a longish paragraph and tell me what purpose each sentence serves in that paragraph. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Which means, yes, you're going to have to do this. Okay? So the only difference really here is that you do need to circle the addition transitions, which you probably be doing anyway, first, second, third, final. Okay?
Okay.
So that's your homework. I didn't clean, look, some of these I went back and cleaned up a little bit. You know, every semester I changed something. This was before I had made that overall list for you, so that's just kind of that's the one out of your book. But I went through and typed all that up. So that's just in there because I had some space. But you guys have that other list that you can look at. Okay, so this is the homework. Please do this before you come to class. Do not come to class waiting to copy down what you see on the board. Because you may find that nothing appears on the board. Okay? And that way you're not learning.
Big man?
I always do that.
Yeah, this is a good one. Officer? This is a lot of homework. This is a lot. Teacher?
Okay.
She said, teacher, there's a lot.
Now, we need to move on to our, okay, it's not too late in the semester for me to move people from their seats if there is too much noise going on in that corner of the room. We need to move on to our vocabulary and our reading and writing. Now, this vocabulary quiz has another one of these Lorraine Fleming prior knowledge things on here, where my interpretation of this is that she tends to think that people have more prior knowledge than most college students do. I mean, it's not, I'm not just saying it's you guys, it's, this says, many of the 19th century's first feminists started out as passionate abolitionists, but when they were shut out of a conference in Britain because they were women, they decided to found their own movement. Okay, the only clue in here is a prior knowledge clue. And as Lorraine Fleming defines that, it's the knowledge of the situation. Now, I extend that definition to mean if somebody has a prior knowledge of the word itself. Okay? When you look at this, you're thinking, uh-oh, I don't see a restatement clue, I don't see a contrast clue, I don't see an example clue. But actually, again, just like the PK quizzes, I'm always saying, if you guys will trust yourselves enough to think about this, you actually do have the knowledge, okay? What years was this? What's
19th century.
1800s, okay? And what's a feminist? What's a feminist?
Yeah, we'll go with that.
Yeah, people who work for women's rights, okay? So what was that fight like in the 1800s?
Brutal. Well, not like
No,
brutal as
it's
in like
pretty
a
much
fight.
non-existent, actually. So these were the first feminists. What this is talking about is before they became feminists. So many of the 19th century's first feminists started out as passionate abolitionists. So we know that these are people who want to work for some kind of rights. They haven't become feminists yet. So in the 1800s, what would they have been fighting for?
Rights. To work.
Rights of what?
Work, women, vote.
No,
Oh, for slaves.
they haven't yet. Okay, everyone hear what Michael said? How did you come to that answer?
Abolitionist.
Your prior knowledge
Oh,
of
yeah, of the word
Women's
abolition.
rights.
the big fight. Okay, you have a prior knowledge of the word already.
And
You
the
know what
history
the
of
word
that.
means.
Yeah.
Okay, okay. But other people don't know what it means, so they kind of have to put this together. When was the Civil War? Well, we know, do you know, because I'm asking, you know, it was the 1800s sometime.
1812.
Remember, 1860 to 1865.
1860.
And who was president during the Civil War? Abraham Lincoln. Yeah. Okay, so you do have some, we've read a little bit about Abraham Lincoln. Okay, so what was the Civil War about? What was the American Civil War about?
To preserve the Union, but it was also
Well,
for the.
you talk like a Southerner, almost. Wait, you're talking about states' rights. Okay,
Yeah, but
states' rights, but what was the other big issue?
slave ownership.
Okay, yeah, preservation of the Union as opposed to the southern states. If you're from the South and someone asks you what was the Civil War about, you say states' rights.
So, yeah.
Because the South never quite figured it out, okay? But for us, nowadays, it was about slavery, okay? So if these women were passionate, what were they probably fighting against?
Brother against brother.
What?
Brother against brother.
What about these women? What were they fighting against?
To have the rights to be equal.
No, this is before they
before
started
that.
fighting for that. Sandra?
Race, about discrimination or
Okay,
black women?
good. They're fighting these people before they started to found their own movement. Now, what does this word mean? It doesn't mean find. Remember?
They founded, they already did find it.
Francis Wright founded Neshoba. Remember
Oh,
that?
founded.
Yeah. That's not
They
find.
built,
Okay, yeah, begin.
begin, they built.
So
their own-
now they started the women's movement, but what movement were they involved in before they became
The anti-slavery.
women's movement? Yeah. Does that make sense? Did everyone hear what Michael said? They were fighting against the big 19th century issue, which was
Slavery.
slavery. Okay? You might also see a word that you recognize in here.
Abolish.
What does that mean? What do you do when you abolish something? You end, okay? So the thing about this word is, this is like the word, kind of like the word segregation. If you segregate something, it basically just means you separate it. I can sit up here and segregate the papers on the desk. But in American language, as history has unfolded itself, we generally reserve the word segregation to mean segregation of the races. So when you say segregation in America today, you're probably talking about racial segregation or racial desegregation. Same thing with the word abolitionist. Technically, it just means somebody who wants to end something, but it has come to mean, it has come to have the specific meaning of what? People who want to end slavery. That's what it means. So if, now that you know what that means, if you think about this story, this is actually a pretty funny story. Okay, these women were originally in the anti-slavery movement. They were abolitionists. They were in America, and they traveled to England. Now, I know that traveling to England today is quite a trip, but what was it like in 1860 to travel to England? How long did
By
it
boat.
take? Yeah, and that's a big trip. So these people went, these women went all the way to England to attend a conference on the abolition of slavery, and what happened to them? They're passionate abolitionists. They're going to go to this conference about fighting slavery. What happened at this conference? They wouldn't let them in because they were women. So what do you, it's, how mad do you expect these people were? Yeah, so this is actually a pretty funny story if you think about it. These women went all the way over there and they wouldn't let them in because they were women. They weren't black women, they were white women. But they wouldn't let them in because they were women. Yeah.
What were American women going to do then? Were they trying
Well,
to
and
lobby?
that's what I'm saying. This was a very big deal
Because
for women to go over there.
The
Yeah.
English already had laws to
Yeah.
prevent
This-
slavery, and that was.
Yeah, England was very pro-abolitionist.
Yeah. I
Oddly
can't
enough.
remember the law.
Parts of it weren't, the parts that grew the cotton, weren't,
America or
I mean, that milled the cotton. America grew the cotton, the English textile mills were dependent on, so the textile mill owners were not happy about it. But a large part of English society was pro-abolition. Yeah, I know, it's an interesting time in history. So yeah, this is a pretty funny story, if, you know, when you think about what was going on there, okay? So after this happened, then they decided to found the feminist movement, which moved forward into the early 20th century. When did women get the right to vote? Anyone know that date?
1923.
Yeah. Sandra?
Was it November? I'm trying to remember, when was it, when JFK was president?
No. No, it was a little before that. Not as much before that as you would think, though. It's only about 30 years before that. It was in the 1920s. Yeah, when you know what I find as I get older, when you start to look at history, you start to realize, my God, it was only 40 years before JFK was president that women got the vote. And when you start to look at that, when you're in high school, 40 years seems like a long time. But now you're looking and saying, wow, that's pretty recent. So, yeah, it's scary. It's pretty scary. Okay, so this means people, remember INST means a person. So an abolitionist is a person who was against slavery. Okay? Okay, so on your, I'll hand that out, and then on your reading and writing, you guys always have the benefit of having a class do this for you and see where the weak spots are. Read this carefully. People were having a lot of trouble with the questions on this because they weren't reading the directions. Okay, same thing here. We're getting to the point, notice you have less room to write out your vocabulary words because we're getting to the point where we're going to go to 2 pages for this. You do have a question on here that is exactly like the homework I just handed back. Read the question, circle or highlight the phrase that indicates a list, Jesus, and write a question about it. Then circle the letters of 3 sentences that answer that question. I cannot tell you how much trouble the last class had with that when I pointed out to them, did you read the directions? They're like, oh, okay, all right. Here's the title, and a little unusual thing here. You have a vocabulary word in the title, which I don't think we've seen before. Okay, does anyone know what this word means?
Yes.
What's a legacy? Anyone know that?
What they're about, their story,
Isn't it like a message?
A legend?
the legend,
Passed away and
the
the
legacy.
followers are giving the message.
There you go. Yeah, Jesus said, when you pass away. Remember Leona Helmsley? She left a legacy to her dog. Remember? Okay, so it's what you pass on. It can be money, but it also can be just an influence, okay? So we have an asterisk here. So if you look down here, in this case, it's a contribution or an influence, okay? In the case of Leona Helmsley's dog, it was money. But a legacy can also be a belief or an idea. So this is a name. This person had 2 first names, but he went by his first initials. He went by P.T. Barnum. If you addressed him, you just said, hey, P.T. Okay? So what's our question about this title? What was P.T. Barnum's legacy?
Who is PT?
What was his belief?
Okay, yeah. Sandra, did you have a question?
I was saying, who is PT?
Yeah, that's another question. Who is he, and what was his contribution? What are we doing? Okay. So again, right off the bat, you have a vocabulary. Okay, so read it carefully, read the questions carefully. It's the same questions, topic, main idea, reversal, transition, topic, sentence, and lists. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and hand out the vocab list, and then then you can come up and pick this up.
Hey, can I have an extra pen?